In the twilight gloom of Fayetteville, North Carolina, the townscape sat like a stage tableau waiting for the spotlight. Carl Winslow was both the audience and the protagonist in this tragic performance. A grizzled detective with years etched into the lines of his face and a gnarled determination that limped through his addiction-riddled veins. The town held its breath as a morning fog swept through, the hushed whispers of the rising day muted by its eerie embrace. Winslow stood before the decrepit school building, a monolith of forgotten years and lost youth. Its Gothic arches loomed through the mist like ancient specters. He could almost hear the spectral laughter of the children who once roamed these halls, their joy now replaced with an ominous silence that dripped from the ivy-covered stones. "You've seen better days, haven't you?" Winslow muttered to the building, his voice grating against the morning chill. He flicked away a spent cigarette, its glow extinguished by the dew-laden grass, a metaphor not lost on him. Inside, he was greeted by Principal Daniels, a man with the weary eyes of those who knew too much, yet could say too little. "Winslow," he nodded, his words heavy with a despair that hung in the air like the remnants of stale chalk dust. Winslow's eyes, sharp and piercing, danced over the now silent classrooms. He traced the echoes of the past with his fingertips, savoring the cold touch of the desks, the faint scent of old textbooks, and the grating silence of a school lost in dread. "I've known tragedy, Daniels, but this—" He let the sentence hang unfinished, the silence saying more than words ever could. As the day surrendered to the encroaching darkness, the detective stood alone in the vast playground, a silhouette against the iron-gray sky. In his mind, the victims' faces swam like apparitions, children who had once filled this space with innocence, their lives snuffed out before their time. The town had become a crypt of unspoken fear. Every creaking branch, every shadow seemed to whisper their names. Later, in the numbing solitude of his apartment, he pored over case files scattered across his worn-out table. Every detail, every possible connection, his brain buzzed like an electric circuit, tirelessly piecing together the macabre jigsaw. In the Stygian silence, he felt a cold touch of dread. He was not alone. A specter was beginning to form in the corners of his vision, a terrible truth seeping from the cracks of the world he thought he knew. As the fog of sleep began to claim him, he found himself standing at the threshold of the school again. Only this time, the laughter of children was replaced with an alien hum, a dreadful resonance that seemed to echo from the farthest reaches of the cosmos. The world shook, the stars twisted, and the cold hand of horror brushed against his soul. Morning found him a changed man. The mask of bravado gave way to a grimmer determination. He could not let the terrors of the night affect his investigation. But as he drove back to the school, a new wave of dread swept over him. For the horror was not just in his dreams, it was rooted in reality, and it was in Fayetteville that it had begun to flower. The flickers in the fog were not just whispers of a deranged mind. They were the heralds of an encroaching nightmare that lurked in the abyss of the unknown. And as he braced himself to face another day at the school, he realized he was about to step into the echoes of that abyss. Winslow's second day at the school unfolded like a ghostly pantomime. The grim specter of horror lurked within the decrepit structure, a silent partner in the dance of dread. As he descended into the school's labyrinthine archives, the line between past and present blurred, replaced by the muffled echo of ancient whispers. He was no longer merely investigating the gruesome crimes. He was peering into the abyss, into the eye of a cosmic nightmare that stared back. The archives held stories, tales penned in dusty ledgers and faded photographs. He sifted through these ghostly remnants, touching upon years of the school's history. Hidden within the brittle pages, he found a chilling pattern, waves of fear, a cyclic storm of despair that seemed to resurge with the passing decades. Each resurgence was marked by a series of unexplained events, the latest being the gruesome murders. In the twilight gloom of the archive room, he found himself drawn into a disturbing narrative. It was the journal of an old groundskeeper, a man named Harrow, who spoke of unsettling dreams and strange murmurs from the depths of the school. His entries grew more frantic and disjointed with each passing day, culminating in a chilling conclusion. They're here, from beyond the stars, feeding, mustn't fear. Haunted by Harrow's cryptic words, Winslow emerged from the archives, his mind filled with foreboding echoes from the past. His encounter with Principal Daniels in the deserted hallway seemed almost spectral, their voices resonating within the silence like a dirge. "Carl, you look paler than a sheet," Daniels observed, his tone betraying a cocktail of concern and fear. "Just some grim reading," he responded, his voice a rough whisper, as if the echoes from the abyss had invaded his own being. As he trudged through the sprawling school grounds, he couldn't shake the eerie sensation of being watched. The creeping dread followed him like a shadow, slithering across the fog-kissed grounds, lurking in the dark corners of the classrooms, whispering in the icy winds that rustled through the skeletal trees. He could feel a palpable shift in the air, a bitter taste of dread that coated his tongue and curled around his heart. In the solitary confines of his apartment, he wrestled with his torment. His usually comforting refuge now bore the stifling weight of his investigation. As he attempted to find solace in sleep, his dreams were invaded by an alien presence. He was back at the school, but it wasn't the familiar Gothic structure he knew. It pulsed with an eerie life, resonating with a rhythm that seemed to echo from the abyss of the cosmos. When he woke, the echo remained, a ghostly hum that filled his senses in the corners of his world. He could not escape it. It permeated the silence of his room, the distant roar of the Fayetteville streets, the rhythm of his own heartbeat. The echoes from the abyss had marked him and had drawn him deeper into the cosmic nightmare that hung over the school. Winslow arrived at the school with a sense of foreboding that clung to him like the dew on the morning grass. The school, once a symbol of childhood innocence and learning, now stood as a totem to an alien presence, a beacon in the world of mortals that pulsed with an unspeakable terror. He wandered through the spectral hallways, the silence no longer just absence of sound, but an entity in itself, a whispering beast that carried the resonance of the dread within its folds. The eerie hum he had been perceiving had grown louder, its rhythm syncing with his heartbeat until it was hard to tell where his heart's throb ended and the alien resonance began. In the heart of the school, in the old auditorium, he confronted the terror. The auditorium, once the heart of the school's life, filled with memories of joyous laughter and passionate debates, now felt like a grand cathedral for the alien entity. The silence here was a living creature, each breath echoing with an unsettling rhythm. He stood at the epicenter of the resonance, his body trembling, his mind straining to comprehend the cosmic horror that was unveiling itself. As he met Daniels once again in the echo-riddled auditorium, their conversation took on a sinister note. "Did you feel it, Daniels? The humming? The resonance?" Winslow asked, his voice barely a whisper, blending with the silence that permeated the room. Daniels looked at him, his eyes haunted, a mirror reflecting the dread the detective had been grappling with. "Yes," he confessed, the word hanging in the air like a specter of admission. That night, back in his apartment, Winslow felt the boundaries of his world dissolve. His dreams were now filled with disturbing visions, flashes of alien landscapes that seemed to stretch into infinity, filled with spiraling galaxies, celestial bodies that pulsed with the dread's resonance. A horrifying realization seeped into him. The entity wasn't just a mere ghost, it was a consciousness from beyond the known universe, a cosmic horror that fed on fear and despair. His addiction, his personal demons, were now entwined with the dread. Each day he faced the alien presence was another day he battled his inner demons. His personal struggle took on a greater meaning, a battle against the cosmic entity that sought to feast on the despair of humanity. He found himself grappling with this new reality. The horror was real, it was there, and it was getting stronger. But so was he. He was a soldier now, marked by the alien entity, yet resistant, resolute. He was drawn into the cosmic horror, but he was also ready to fight. As dawn broke, he knew he was on the threshold of a terrible confrontation. He was no longer merely investigating the gruesome murders. He was preparing for a battle against an entity from the heart of the cosmos. The battle that would take place in the center of the nightmare, the place where reality and terror bled into each other. The dawn broke, bleeding crimson light onto the silent town of Fayetteville. Its quiet life paused, held captive by an unseen horror. Winslow, too, was held in this spectral paralysis, in the hollowed silence before a storm. He stood before the looming edifice of the school, its Gothic silhouette twisted into an altar for the alien presence. The echoing hum of the alien resonance had become his constant companion, the nightmarish melody that played in the backdrop of his reality. It guided him through the spectral corridors of the school, his steps measured, his heart throbbing in rhythm with the alien hum. In the heart of the nightmare, in the hollowed auditorium, he stood face to face with a cosmic entity. It was not a physical being, but a pulsing consciousness, a horrifying amalgam of fears and despair. The auditorium twisted and warped under its influence, the world bending and bleeding into a nightmarish landscape. Daniels joined him, his presence a flicker of humanity in the midst of cosmic horror. Their words were swallowed by the resonance, their shared dread tying them together, anchoring them in the heart of the nightmare. As the entity fed on their fears, Winslow fought back. He confronted his personal demons, his trauma, his addiction, stripping them of their power, denying the entity its feast. His battle was no longer against the external cosmic horror, but the horrors within him. His resolve, born from years of battling his addiction, became his weapon. He projected his newfound strength, his determined resistance against the alien entity. The battle raged within the twisted reality of the auditorium. The entity shrieked in frustration, the resonance around them warping and shuddering. Winslow held his ground, his every breath a testament to his human resilience, his refusal to succumb to despair. Slowly the entity weakened, the resonance faltered, and the nightmarish reality began to crumble. He felt the hum recede, his heartbeat returning to its normal rhythm. The school, once a monument to the alien presence, was now just a school. The cosmic horror had been silenced, banished back into the abyss from whence it came. Exhausted but triumphant, Winslow and Daniels emerged from the school as the sun began to set, their faces etched with the scars of their ordeal, their spirits standing taller than the Gothic silhouette of the school. Winslow returned to his life, changed and haunted. The cosmic horror had been banished, but its echoes lingered in his psyche. He was scarred, but he had also triumphed. He had faced the abyss, the cosmic horror, and emerged victorious. Fayetteville was freed from the grip of the unseen terror, but the memory of the nightmare persisted. The flickers in the fog, the echoes from the abyss, the dread's resonance, they all became part of its history, a grim chapter in its story. He moved on, carrying the weight of his experience. The cosmic horror was behind him, but the memory of his journey into the heart of the nightmare would forever shape him. He had walked through the shadow of the cosmic horror and emerged stronger, his spirit a testament to human resilience in the face of unfathomable terror. He had faced his demons, both within and without, and in doing so had found his redemption in the heart of the nightmare. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like it and subscribe to our channel, where you can find more similar stories, and click on the bell icon to never miss one. There is plenty more cosmic horror to come from the Eldritch Tales Factory. Stay tuned, and until next time.